Hello and good morning. Welcome to Matcha Mornings with Diane. I am your host, Diane. I am a dancer, performing artist based in New York City, and welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things mindfulness, life in New York as a performing artist, creativity, art, and everything in between. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my podcast. Okay, I will definitely preface this episode by saying that this might turn into a rant because I feel so strongly about what I'm about to talk about. And that is just social media in general and how unbearable it has become. Don't get me wrong, I still see the positive sides of social media, and I feel like we are entering an era where I think most of us are remembering what social media is for rather than what it has really turned into, especially for platforms like Instagram and TikTok. I feel like with short form content and just like this endless doom scrolling, it has really warped our perception of reality, and it has left so many of us unconsciously dissatisfied with our own lives because when you're just like always consuming so much information in a short period of time, I think our brains start to think that actually the grass is greener out there. The grass is greener when I have this. The grass is greener when I'm a bit more successful. The grass is greener if my life looks like this. And that is honestly like such a sad reality to live in. And I know for a fact too that for me, the less that I doom scroll, the more satisfied I am with my life. I just miss the days of social media when it was really just about connecting with people, actually connecting with them in real life, reaching out to them. And that is truly the beauty of social media, is that, again, like it says social, that is the point of having social media. It is to connect and to have a platform where you can connect with so many people around the world. There's just like no geographical restrictions, but it has come with a lot of downsides now because of how prevalent it is in our lives these days. That the irony is social media has definitely impacted and benefited our lives in so many ways that we are more connected, we are more online these days. But truly, we are so freaking disconnected. We kind of forgot what it's like to actually be in reality. We have forgotten what it's like to actually relate to other people and not see life through the lens of what we see and what we consume on the daily. I just know that for 2026, that is like one of my biggest goals, I guess. And the intention that I want to set in 2026 is to actually spend less time on social media, like less time doom scrolling, and actually be more intentional with what I consume and actually how I also show up. And remembering that life happens in the now, it happens in reality. That is not to say that I do not have my own goals. Like for me, being able to have this platform and building this, the goal for me really is to build a community and to connect, to really be able to bring this community into the real world as well. But I understand that sometimes things just have to start online, and it makes the process a bit more seamless, and that is the good part. But I think it's so easy to also get lost with these metrics and this whole like highlight reel of certain people, because we do not get to see the full picture of these people's lives. That we forget that life is not always meant to look great, that life is not always meant to be in some sort of high, that life is all about the whole range, that sometimes we will be disappointed. Sometimes we will be happy, and sometimes we're just freaking bored, and that's okay. But I think nowadays it just feels like social media has truly become like this drug, and in some ways too, just like a sales platform. Because every time I open TikTok and Instagram now, I feel like it's just an ad and it's a way to sell things. I am not saying that these things aren't important and that they're completely evil and should not exist, because I understand that people are also meant to be paid for the work that they have done, for the things that they have created, and to be able to attain the success that they deserve. We all deserve some sort of success. But I think sometimes when we spend so much time online, we forget that our life now is already so great that it feels like we're always just trying to constantly chase success. And sometimes when we're already there, when we're already at that point where we've achieved the goal, we're just like, this doesn't feel so good, so let me look for the next one already. That we don't even give ourselves the time to even celebrate and slow down before charging ahead and trying to accomplish the next thing. Like, it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to live that way. And I know for myself too that I just really am in a much better place, like mentally and physically and spiritually, when I limit my screen time, when I actually have more boundaries when it comes to the content that I consume, when it comes to spending less time online, because I am just so present in my life, and I also get to just hear myself, and I get to be with myself and give myself the space to also receive like these wonderful ideas that I want to be able to create on and work on, and actually be able to give something intentional, to actually be of service, not from a place that, okay, I have to do this because I want to achieve this, not from the place of feeling like I have to achieve some sort of success or to even get specific metrics. I just really want to focus on the purpose, the bigger picture. And I think it really helps too to not be too specific sometimes. There is nothing wrong with getting really specific. I know there is a time and place for that. And I have my specific goals this year. I have always been that person who has written like a manifestation list that, I get really specific on when do I want to get this? Like, when do I want to achieve this? Like the metric that I'm trying to aim for. It's good to have those. I think it's still great because it's only human nature to want to accomplish something. And it is such a great thing to have goals, because it does like remind you that you are working towards something, that what you are doing right now, like all of the actions that you are taking actually have purpose. And like having those specific goals too, like helps you just kind of map out and even have an idea on what aligned action looks like. But on the flip side, sometimes like all of those things, all of those goals can feel like they're so driven by logic, so driven by your head that if you actually look through them again, and when you're actually in the process of also trying to achieve those goals, it doesn't feel good in your body. Like it just doesn't feel truthful. It feels so disconnected from what you truly want in this life, the feeling that you actually want to feel when you are in the process of achieving this goal, and when you get to that goal, when you get to that place when you've already achieved this goal. Like it gets so lost now because I think with how fast we are consuming content, we have expectations of ourselves and other people to also be at this place by a certain time, when as humans we were not built, many of us were not built to actually gain that kind of success overnight. Like of course I know that for certain people it really is possible. Am not I am not saying that that is not possible. For some people it really is. But I think we also have to remember that when people get to these goals, they probably started somewhere. They started somewhere that many of us may not have even been aware of, that they already started with a really strong foundation before getting to where they are right now. And so I think it still pays to remember that a lot of the things that we see online is just like a speck of the reality of these people's lives. And so we are doing ourselves a disservice to think that we are not where we're meant to be at the moment because our life does not look like that. And of course, there's also the part where, do you think that your dream life, that your idea of success, your idea of purpose and fulfillment actually aligns with what you are being inspired by, but what you are being shown online, right? I think we just have to remember that social media is a great tool, but it shouldn't be our whole life. The goal is to still live your life in reality and see social media as an amazing supplement and a great addition to our lives, but it shouldn't take over your life. And it really comes at a cost already when it is affecting the way that you are approaching life, the way that you are thinking that your life isn't any good because it doesn't look like the way that these people's lives that we see online, that it doesn't just look like that, basically it doesn't match. I think it's so important to really have those breaks and time away from social media, because truly, like, that is the only time that you get to remember that, oh yeah, my life is actually great. My life is all about being present. And my life is already great as it is. It will only get better because I'm still young. I mean, I have to remind myself this, and I'm about to turn 29. Sometimes that feels old, and sometimes I still have that tendency. I am not completely immune to it. I still have the tendency to compare my timeline to other people, to the people that I grew up with, because I know that my timeline looks so different from theirs. But that doesn't mean that their lives are any better than mine. And truly, when you just remember that the focus, like your big focus, should actually be your own life and your own reality first, life is just so much better. You just remember that even the simplest things in life can already evoke so much joy and peace and happiness, and you do not have to look for that in something else, in someone else. And that is something that you can truly create. I just know for a fact that I just need a reset button when it comes to social media. And I think this really goes hand in hand with my intention of creating more long form content. And maybe it's not even going to be produced at lightning speed as a lot of people expect, as what is maybe expected of a lot of us who are trying to grow on social media and actually make something out of it, because again, there is nothing wrong with that. I just know that I don't want to live my life chronically online. I do not want to live a life where I will always be reminded of the lack in my life versus actually embracing what I already have, because life is already so beautiful. I already have so many things around me that I probably just do not appreciate enough because I have spent so much of my day, so much of my time on my phone, doom scrolling, and then I wonder why I feel a little dissatisfied. Or I wonder why boredom just feels so freaking uncomfortable and weird. Because again, like I've gotten used to getting all of my dopamine hits from social media. And so for me in 2026, like that really is my biggest intention, is to be online less, to be more intentional with the content that I consume and even with the content that I create, because I want to always remember that my purpose of being on these platforms is to build a community and to be able to build that and bring that into reality. I really miss those days on Instagram when I used to have a food blog. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but I did. I did have a food blog, and I was really just like doing it for the sake of fun because I love food. It was definitely one of the many ways that I was able to experience New York as a city, just like how rich the food culture is here in the city, and just like so many restaurants that you can try, so many small businesses that you can support. And on top of that, when you have dinner with friends, you are nurturing your relationships. And so, yeah, I remember during that time too, when I got curious when I just like got curious about what it's like to be like a full-time food blogger or like content creator. I had the freaking balls to reach out to a lot of these food bloggers or food content creators, and it was without any sort of expectation because I knew that obviously, even though I have good intentions and I truly just want to connect with them, this is their job and they only have a certain capacity to actually be in community and to actually connect with someone one on one. But to my surprise, a lot of them actually agreed to meet with me in person, and they were so kind. They were so kind about it, and I will always be so grateful for the time and the moment that they shared with me, because it wasn't just about like what I was getting from them, like the lessons and the experience itself, because most of the time it was actually them bringing me along to one of their work events. Like maybe they were invited to a restaurant that they had to do content for, so they were hitting two birds with one stone, which I did not mind at all, because for me that was also an opportunity to see what it's like to work on it as your business. So it has been one of the most enriching periods of my life. But what I truly loved about that period of my life and on Instagram is the fact that I got to connect with these people, the fact that I got to know them and I got to meet them in real life. Like, I actually got to see the reality of it all, and I got to connect with them in real life. That it really reminded me that, oh, this really is the point of social media. It is to be able to connect deeply and to be able to build a community and to be of service. It really is all about the intention. And I feel like nowadays we have forgotten about our intentions and the great usage of social media and being able to use it intentionally. So yeah, I just know that for me, I am feeling like this huge reset when it comes to like approaching social media and even creating for social media this year, because I am just pretty sick of like this overconsumption, this social media fatigue, and I am sick and tired, not just for myself, but for other people to feel like they are not living a good enough life, because it takes them away from the present. And for me, like, that is really my biggest goal in 2026, is to remember that my life has to start in the present first, in the reality first. Social media is just a supplement. It is just a great addition, but it shouldn't be my whole life. In fact, if it has become my whole life, I have to take a step back. Because again, I'm pretty sure I will be in that place again of being like, I feel like I'm not training enough. I feel like I haven't taken as many classes yet, even though maybe my body is really just asking for me to give it a rest and to take things a bit more slowly and actually show up to classes more intentionally. And remember that being in a dance class isn't all about filming for your page, for your content, for your reel, and that I am there to simply also improve my craft, even if that means not being able to get great footage of it. But at least I was actually there in space. I was in community, and I am also connecting with a choreographer, with a teacher, and not just like living behind the screen and thinking that having a good footage is what will make me successful as a dancer, right? So yeah, I think really just approaching this year with a lot more honor and respect for the process, especially the behind the scene, and actually enjoying it too. And without like being so consumed and worried about what the outcome is going to be like, because that is life. Life is this long journey and long process. We will always have many arrivals, we will have many chapters, and I don't want to constantly live in a state where I am always chasing after the next goal and feeling like I cannot live my life in the now, and feeling like my life isn't abundant as it is already, right here, right now, and without it looking like aesthetic, or I guess what the online culture has deemed aesthetic at this point. To actually remember that I want to live life to the fullest and the truest it can be, and in a way that feels so true to me, and in a way that I actually get to share it with some of the most genuine people ever. Because I truly believe in the fact that you cannot build genuine relationships online alone. Like, you really have to have those relationships you want to build them in real life. Like, that is something that we are forgetting. And I feel like for some of us, we have overused boundaries at this point, that we have forgotten what it's like to relate to other people in real life, because we're like, oh no, like this is a form of self care. But then again, maybe in reality, we just have removed ourselves from environments, from situations where we're actually in community and we're actually relating to other people. And so, yeah, for me, like, it's not just with social media, but actually even having a life outside of my career path. Remembering that, oh, yeah, actually, my career is such a huge part of my life. I am privileged enough to be able to pursue something that I love, something that I am so passionate about. And I know that there is something like of service with what I am doing. But that is not my whole identity. I have to remember that I have a life outside of what I do as well, and that my whole entire worth shouldn't lie on what I can do. That I deserve to have moments in my life, that I deserve to have people in my life because I am just being myself. That I am not performing, and I don't feel like I always have to constantly do something for them or overgive so that I can actually receive it. That I am actually like worthy as I am, and I sometimes just have to cultivate and remember to be in those spaces again, in order to remember that my life is already great as it is, even if it doesn't look like it externally. Truly, it has to feel true to myself in order for it to even feel satisfying. I don't know about you guys, but I just am tired of the doom scrolling and the constant selling and ads and, like this overload of information on social media, that I just feel like everyone is so tired. Everyone doesn't know how to relate anymore, and it has kept us in this cycle of dissatisfaction over our lives. And so, yeah, I feel like 2026 is definitely going to be an era where social media and the way that people are using it, the way that people are creating for it, are definitely going to change. I just feel it. I mean, even for me as a consumer now, I am just a lot more mindful of the creators that I truly support, and, like the creators that I truly feel connected to, or who I feel like I can in some ways aspire to become like. Because sometimes we just get so far away from ourselves that we truly forget what we want, what we truly want, and who we truly are. 2026 is that era where people are going to be looking for that connection again, that looking pretty and looking aesthetic is not going to be enough, because we've had enough of those, and I think we're still going to have enough of those. That is not to say that you cannot want pretty things. I mean, I also have to admit, I love pretty things. Like, I love fashion. I love being able to create a beautiful space for myself, because I know when I have an amazing space, I just feel good. But I think it also has to come from a place that has to feel true to you, and not just because it was influenced, right? I mean, we're all going to be constantly influenced, because that is us as humans. We become the people we surround ourselves with. And so if you are chronically online, then you definitely just become the people and the things that you consume online. And maybe when you get to a point where you're like, I don't know, like, this actually isn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. It's not as glamorous as I thought it would be. And I think that's normally the signal for many of us that, oh, actually, maybe I'm not as aligned with the life that I truly want for myself. Because I have spent so much of it thinking that what I need and what I want for my life exists outside of myself when truly it's already within you. It's already within you. And you just have to make that conscious effort every day to tune into yourself first before you reach out for those external sources to give you that satisfaction. I mean, that is truly the key to living a life that is so satisfying, that is so truthful and authentic, a life that you really just want to live, a life that you don't want to escape from. So, yeah, that is the end of my rant. And I hope that you guys have resonated with some of these reflections in some ways. I mean, I'm really curious to know what you guys also feel about social media nowadays with the current climate of social media, because I am just so done. I'm so done. That I think we just have to remember that life is meant to be lived in person. And truly, for me, that is the goal of me having a platform online. It is to really be able to build this community, bring it into real life, and be able to really just connect. Like, that is the ultimate goal. Of course, I still have my specific goals, but I have to remember that it always has to come back to the bigger picture, to the feeling that I want, and that life is so much more than metrics. It's so much more than the aesthetics. And really just like remembering that we have to tap back into that feeling first, and that it has to start within first. It always has to start within. So 2026, I think, is going to be a very intentional online era for many of us, or so I hope. Thank you so much for listening to this rant off an episode, and I hope that you guys have a lovely day,